Many years ago, in days of childhood, I used to play till evening shadows come. Then winding down an old familiar pathway, I heard my mother call at set of sun. Come home, it's supper time. The shadows lengthen fast. Come home, it's supper time. We're going home at last. One day beside her bedside I was kneeling, and angel wings were winnowing the air. She heard the call for supper time in heaven, and now I know she's waiting for me there. Come home, it's supper time. The shadows lengthen fast. Come home, it's supper time. We're going home at last. In visions now I see her standing yonder, and her familiar voice I hear once more. The banquet table's ready up in heaven. It's supper time upon the golden shore. Come home, it's supper time. The shadows lengthen fast. Come home, it's supper time. We're going home at last. We're going home at last.
Hi, I'm Glenn Giles, pastor of Enon Baptist Church, and I want to welcome you this morning to worship. We're going to be looking at the second chapter of Ruth, the story of Ruth in the Old Testament, and looking specifically at verses 1 through 13. And after over a year of this old pandemic and all the struggles and complications and losses and grief that has caused, I think it's a good time to be refreshed. And so today's sermon is designed to refresh us and remind us how the Bethlehem community of the Lord's people equally embraced two impoverished widows that showed up on their doorstep. It was Naomi, a broken old woman, returning to be supported in her hardship, and Ruth, a young, hard-working foreigner from Moab. She was new and had never been to Bethlehem before. But these two women were embraced, and it's the stirring story of how Ruth, the younger of the two women, the two widows, how she took a faith journey. And it stirs our heart with joy because it tells us how a farming family overcame just multiple tragedies in their life, and they did it with courage, with unselfish devotion, and with love. It's a story with a happy ending, and this popular love story has a lesson about hard work, about family loyalty, and how all these and faith are rewarded by God. The story is true, the characters are noble, and our caring God is clearly at work in their lives, as I hope He is in yours. Well, the story today starts with Elimelech, and he's a Jewish farmer. He lives in the area of Bethlehem in Israel, and he took his wife and his two sons to Moab, to go dwell or stay in the land of Moab. Now, Elimelech means my God is king, and his wife's name is Naomi, and that means pleasant. But they named their sons very unusual names: Sickly and Wasting Away. I don't think I want either one of those names for me or my children. Well, there was a drought, and they lived on the farm, making a living from the land. And a drought means there's no water for the crops. Everything is dried up, and the drought brought the famine. And so they were hungry. They had to survive, so they left on a temporary journey into the land of Moab. And when things got better, they planned to return back home, buy back their farm, and live again in their own homeland. In Moab, Elimelech was able to make a living and feed his family. There was enough food to eat. And then tragically, Elimelech dies. Naomi, his wife, widow, had two sons, and they married Moabite women. They married women from the foreign land. And their names were Orpah and Ruth. After 10 years in the land of Moab, both sons, sickly and wasting away, die. Naomi's family of 6 is now only a family of 3. Just her, Naomi, and her 2 daughters-in-law. All are widows, all are childless, and all seems lost. Feeling very, very empty, Naomi hears that the Lord has graciously given bread or food to his people in Bethlehem, back home. And so she decides to move back 60 miles on foot, back to her homeland. The surviving family packs up what they can carry, and they start on their journey. And they're preparing to start all over again. And then in the midst of this time of great hardship, Naomi reveals her unselfish character. She cares deeply for her daughters-in-law. She thinks of them as her daughters. And so she kindly releases her daughters to go back to their parents, back to their home, and remarry so they'll have a future. They've been good to her sons before they died. They've been good to her all along. And she asks the Lord to bless them for it. She needs them right now, but they need something else. Even though they are her family, her only family, she chooses what's best for them. She kisses them goodbye. They have a tearful farewell, one more big cry together. Just picture these 3 women clinging to each other. They have this bond of common sorrow. Each lost their husband. And the daughters offer to go with her to her people. And Naomi tells them that they have hope with another husband, maybe have children, but they have no hope with her. She now tells them how it feels. It feels like the hand of the Lord has gone out against me, she says. And so they lift up their voice, they weep again, and Orpah kisses Naomi, kisses her goodbye, and goes back home to her people and to her gods. Ruth loyally clings to Naomi. She won't go back. She's going to go forward. Ruth has made a life-changing decision. She has boldly chosen her path. She is determined. Literally, the scripture says she made herself strong to go. So let's talk about Ruth's hard decision. She made a bold choice. She chooses to abandon her gods and follow Naomi and her God to serve the true God. She adopted the faith of her new country that she hasn't even been to, and she never turns back. She fully commits at this point. And Ruth made a bold choice to leave her parents, to leave her family, brothers and sisters, the village, and even leave her country to go into Israel, to a land and become a part of a people she had never seen. Naomi is the family leader, the head of the house, and a mother's faith is inspiring. A mother's faith instilled loyalty to her family and trust in her God's care. And we see these traits of loyalty and trust in God in Ruth's amazing vow of loyalty. I'll read it. It comes from Ruth chapter 1, verse 15 through 17. Naomi says, "Look, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law." But Ruth said, "Entreat me not to leave you, or to turn back from following after you. For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts you and me." Well, Naomi, of course, was so glad to hear this. They were now a family of only two, but they were a family of faith, trusting the same God. Ruth made sure Naomi would not be alone. When they arrived, all Bethlehem was talking. "Is this Naomi? She looks so different." And she told them, "Don't call me Naomi, pleasant. Call me Mara, bitter. For the Almighty has dealt bitterly with me. I went out full, and the Lord has brought me home again empty. The Almighty has afflicted me." And Naomi had a strong faith. She just didn't have any way of knowing that very moment, the Almighty was quietly working her into his plan to save souls. She would become a part of David's bloodline, even though her husband was already dead. It appeared God had not been paying attention to her, not caring about her, and not helping her family. But the Almighty was about to turn their life around in an amazing way. He was about to show her family his great kindness. God is kind. His loving kindness never fails. At the end of chapter 1, we read, "Now they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest." This is the best possible time to come to Bethlehem, to come to the house of bread. There was plenty of food for everyone, It wasn't by chance, it was God's timing. He had taken them under his wing. Naomi and Ruth were under the Lord's care. The harvest time is when God fills those who are empty. Naomi needed help. Naomi was a widow, childless, poor, and old, but she was an insider in Bethlehem. Ruth also needed help. Ruth was just as much a widow and childless and poor, but Ruth was an outsider, and Ruth was young. So she was determined to go to work. She asked permission from Naomi to leave her for the day, to go glean in the fields and find some food left over by the harvesters, the reapers. And so Ruth was very kind to Naomi. She was going to support her and provide for her and Naomi. And she earned a reputation for being kind to her mother-in-law. God rewards faith. He rewards kindness. He rewards family loyalty. And he rewards hard work. Ruth was guided by the Lord directly to the field of a relative of Naomi's. His name is Boaz. He's a wealthy, noble man, a man of great character, and he's a relative of her late husband, Elimelech. Ruth happened to glean in the field of Boaz. Boaz is a man who demonstrates great character and faith in God. He returns from town to greet his workers. "The Lord be with you." And the greeters are people of faith, and they respond, "And the Lord bless you." He's well loved. He's respected. He's a caring man. He's a kind man. He sees Ruth and he asks, "Whose young woman is this?" And he notices her because she's new and because she's young and she's a foreigner. So let's read chapter 2, verse 6 through 23. And this passage is so full of kindness from everyone. Then Boaz said to his servant, who was in charge of the reapers, "Whose young woman is this?" And so the servant who was in charge of the reapers answered and said, "It is the young Moabite woman who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab." And she said, "Please let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves." So she came and has continued from morning until now, though she rested a little in the house. Then Boaz said to Ruth, "You will listen, my daughter, will you not? Do not go to glean in another field, nor go from here, but stay close by my young women. Let your eyes be on the field which they reap, and go after them. Have I not commanded the young men not to touch you? And when you are thirsty, go to the vessels and drink from what the young men have drawn from the well." And so she fell on her face. She bowed down to the ground, and she said to him, "Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should take notice of me, since I am since I am a foreigner?" And Boaz answered and said to her, she had asked, "Why are you taking notice? Why are you showing me favor?" And his answer is, "It's been fully reported to me all that you've done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, and how you have left your father and your mother and the land of your birth and have come to a people whom you did not know before. The Lord repay your work, and a full reward be given you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come for refuge." And then she said, "Let me find favor in your sight, my Lord, for you have comforted me and have spoken kindly to your maidservant, though I'm not like one of your maidservants." Now Boaz said to her at mealtime, a little later in the day, "Come here, eat of the bread, and dip your piece of bread in the vinegar." So she sat beside the reapers, and he passed parched grain to her, and she ate and was satisfied, and kept some back. And when she rose up to glean, Boaz commanded his young men, saying, Let her glean even among the sheaves, and do not reproach her. Also let grain from the bundles fall purposely for her. Leave it that she may glean, and do not rebuke her. And so she gleaned in the field until evening, and she beat out what she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. Then she took it up and went into the city, and her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned, and she brought out and gave it to her. So she brought out and gave to her, meaning Ruth gave to her mother-in-law, Naomi, what she had kept back after she had been satisfied. She kept part of her lunch. Isn't that a family thing? To bring back a treat or something good that you have enjoyed for someone else in the family. And so her mother-in-law said to her, "Where have you gleaned today? And where did you work? Blessed be the one who took notice of you." So she told her mother-in-law with whom she had worked and said, "The man's name with whom I work today is Boaz." And then Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "Blessed be the Lord who has not forsaken his kindness." Notice the kindness even from God. "Who has not forsaken his kindness to the living and the dead." And Naomi said to her, "This man is a relation of ours, one of our close relatives." Ruth the Moabitess said, "He also said to me, 'You shall stay close to my young men until they have finished all my harvest.'" And Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, "It's good, my daughter, that you go out with his young women, and that people do not meet you in any other field." So she stayed close by the young women of Boaz to glean until the end of barley harvest and wheat harvest, and she dwelt with her mother-in-law. Well, that's the end of the reading, but let's go on with the story. Ruth is so good to Naomi. Boaz is good to Ruth. Boaz is good to his workers. He's obedient to his God. Everyone does the right thing. Everyone is kind. Naomi does something kind for Ruth. It's her turn now. The mother seeks to give her daughter security through marriage. Naomi wants Ruth to live a blessed and good and full life. Naomi cares about what will happen to Ruth when Naomi is gone. And so she comes up with a plan for marriage. The mother instructs Ruth to propose marriage to Boaz at midnight. You heard me right. Go to Boaz at midnight and propose marriage. It's a bold decision that took faith in God that it would be taken in the right way. Boaz is a near kinsman who is in a position to buy back the family farm and raise offspring to carry on the family name. Keep the inheritance within the family again. This would restore the family's inheritance, and it would also provide land and offspring to take care of Ruth in her old age. This all could be done through a covenant provision, a provision of God's kindness to childless widows. It's called Levirate marriage. Ruth agrees to do as her mother told her. Boaz works hard, threshing the grain until dark. His workers are all resting, and he's out there still working right up until dark. And then he gets a bite to eat, and he drinks, and he falls asleep on a pile of grain. Ruth waits until he's asleep, and then she approaches. She positions herself by his feet and takes off his sandals. I think that's to get his feet cold when the night chill comes to wake him up. But that's just my guess. And so after he falls asleep at midnight, he awakens startled. He rolls over and he finds a young woman at his feet. And Boaz says, "Who are you?" And Ruth says, "I am Ruth, your maidservant. Take your maidservant under your wing, for you are a close relative. Imagine his surprise. This admirable young lady just asked him to marry her. He tells Ruth that he is the next of kin, and that now she has shown even more kindness than she showed to her mother-in-law, Naomi, at the beginning when he first met her. That's because she didn't pursue a younger man in somebody to marry that is her own age. She pursued him, and he saw that as a kindness. Ruth trusted Boaz to be a man of noble character, and he was. She trusted him to do the right thing, to not take advantage of her in the dark when the two of them were alone at the threshing floor. Boaz also trusted Ruth. He had seen her noble character. He saw that she was a good person who did the right thing, who cared about others. And so he had highest respect for her, and he treated her with respect. He treats her as if she were his daughter. He compliments Ruth by saying, "The whole town knows that you're a virtuous woman." And he treats her like one. If you want to know what a virtuous woman is, Mother's Day is a good day to read Proverbs 31. And then you'll know. Boaz explains a little complication that he will try to resolve the very next day. He wants to marry her, but there's a young man who is a closer next of kin. And so he vows that if the other man doesn't marry her, he will. He'll buy her family farm for her, and he'll gladly do the duty of a redeemer kinsman. As the Lord lives is how he makes that vow. Boaz will do his duty to her, and he'll obey God's commands. He'll follow God's word to the letter. Ruth chapter 4, verse 13 through 17 tells us how the story ends. So Boaz took Ruth, she became his wife, and when he went in to her, the Lord gave her conception. She bore a son. Then the women said to Naomi, that's the neighbors, "Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you this day without a close relative. And may his name be famous in Israel. And may he be to you a restorer of life and a nourisher of your old age. For your daughter-in-law who loves you, who is better to you than 7 sons, has borne him." And then Naomi took the child and laid her on her bosom and became a nurse to him. Also the neighborhood women gave him a name, saying, "This is a son born to Naomi." And they called his name Obed. He's the father of Jesse, the father of David, which you and I know is the ancestor of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Isn't it an amazing story how God works behind the scenes and everyone gets blessed in this family of faith? Boaz got a kind, truly great and caring young wife. Ruth grew in her faith in God. She gained a noble, kind, rich second husband and became a first-time mother. Naomi gained a kind son-in-law, and she became a first-time grandmother. She was no longer feeling empty. Her arms were full of baby Obed, and her days were filled with the joy of grandma duties. God showed great kindness in redeeming this family of faith. He rewarded their kindness. He rewarded their loyalty, their faith, and he rewarded their hard work. Take time today to thank God for the many ways he has blessed your family of faith. God bless you today.